Hello and welcome to the Roy Rogers News Channel. Thank you so much for watching. And for today's PokeMMO ability video, well, we're going to dive into probably one of the most important abilities in the player versus environment scene. And what is that ability, you might ask? That's a good question. That ability is going to be Pickup. And with me to discuss this ability is a certain crop that I picked up straight from the farm. YoungCabbage. I'd like to say hello to everybody.
Yep, thanks for having me on.
Excellent. Alright, there we go. And without further ado, Cabbage, are you ready to discuss Pickup?
Let's get into it.
Excellent. Alright, and the very first thing that you might be asking us is, hey Roy and Cabbage, what does Pickup do? And that's a good question. Let me go and give you the in-game definition first, and then let me go ahead and give you the summarized definition of it. So the in-game definition is, may pick up items after defeating wild Pokemon. Now, in order to activate this ability, you have to have the Pokemon in your lead. So let me go ahead and swap out Bayonet, and let me put Teddiursa in the lead here so that way you can see. There we go. As you see right there at the top left of your screen, there should be a pickup thing, which is why the Pokeball for PokeMMO has been moved slightly, so that way you can be able to see that ability in action. And what does it do? Potential to pick up items from wild Pokemon encounters. So basically what it is that it's a passive ability, and you basically just EV train, or you do whatever you want to do, and you knock out the Pokemon, and there's a small chance that you pick up some items. Now, some of those items could be valuable, and some of those items may not be valuable, but the most important thing is that, hey, at least you're getting some items in your bag, so that's certainly a plus. Now, I would like to discuss a few things before we dive into the Pokemon here that have the ability to pick up, and that is that Pickup does not work if the Pokemon faints in the lead. So people have tried this where you faint Teddiursa and then you just go into something else. The ability will shut off and it won't work after battle. The Teddiursa has to be alive throughout the duration of the battle, or whatever Pokemon you're using for Pickup. So that is a very important note that I would like to mention here. So, Cabbage, do you have anything to add here?
No, I do just think it's very important if you're going to be leading your party with a Pokemon with Pickup to make sure that it does stay healthy, so that way you can take advantage of that ability.
I agree. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the Pokemon, shall we? Cabbage, are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Excellent. Alright, and we're going to go ahead and start off by saying that I don't want to include the pre-evolutions if they don't need to be included, but for this particular video, there are a lot of pre-evolutions because the evolution actually loses the pickup ability. So, as an example, Meowth has the pickup ability. However, Persian doesn't have the pickup ability. It actually has the Limber ability that replaces pickup. So, I just wanted to note that. And without further ado, let's go and dive into our very first pickup Pokemon, Meowth. Now, you might be asking us, hey Roy and Cabbage, what are the main perks and drawbacks to having Meowth? And that's a good question. Let's go and dive into them, shall we? So one of the perks is that you have the move Payday, which you can learn naturally, which means that you can be able to save money on the TM. Another perk is that you can be able to learn Hypnosis, and you can be able to learn False Swipe, and also you can be able to learn Hyper Voice. Now, why would that moveset be so good? And that's a good question. The reason why you want that moveset is because Payday is for singular encounters, Hyper Voice is for EV training, and you also have the moves False Swipe and Hypnosis because they could be able to put a shiny to sleep if you encounter a shiny if you're pickup farming. It should also be noted that Meowth has a same type attack bonus or stab for the moves Payday, Hyper Voice, and False Swipe, meaning that they have slightly more power in their hits. Now, there's another perk to Meowth as well, and that would be the fact that its speed stat is 90, which is not really too bad, considering the fact that Meowth is at level 100. And also, another thing I should note is that when you're using Meowth for your environmental stuff, you can use Hyper Voice for your EV training in terms of knocking out the hordes, and you can use Payday for singular encounters. It should also be noted that Meowth is also easy to breed for, considering the fact that it's the field egg group. But there is a bit of a drawback to Meowth, and it goes something like this. Its attack stat is 45. Its special attack is 40. that's not going to really hit too many things very hard. Cabbage, do you have any commentary to say about Meowth?
No, I would just make sure that, like you mentioned, with the attack and special attack both being pretty low, making sure to either look into options of EV training or getting a specific nature to help, I guess, compensate for that low stat.
Certainly. Yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, Meowth needs all the help it can get, so by golly.
Oh, yeah.
And without further ado, let's go and dive into our next Pokemon that I actually use personally as a pickup Pokemon. Well, actually, I use it in tandem with Munchlax, but I can get to Munchlax later. Teddiursa. Now, you might be asking us, hey, Roy and Cabbage, what are the main perks of Teddiursa? And that's a good question. Well, let's go and start off with the very first perk, and that would be it has the move Sweet Scent. It's the only pickup Pokemon with the move Sweet Scent. Why is that good? Because let's just say you want to EV train with your pickup Pokemon. Well, you can be able to use Sweet Scent with your Teddiursa, and then you can just Hyper Voice all the Pokemon that you have on the field, and you can EV train there while you pick up items passively, and that's what I do. I pick up items passively while I EV train. And also another perk with Teddiursa is that it is a normal type, so Hyper Voice, and if you were to use Strength, then you can have that same type attack bonus, just like Meowth with its normal type. Payday and Hyper Voice would be stat, but Meowth doesn't really have that great of a stat layout, for the exception of speed, which we can get to later. No, I mean later in terms of Teddiursa speed. We already talked about Meowth. But Teddiursa, another perk is that it's actually really easy to breed for. I mean, yes, Meowth is also easy to breed for with the Field Egg group, but Teddiursa is easy because Teddiursa doesn't really require much work in terms of having to figure out like what egg moves you want and all that. You can just go and level up your Teddiursa and you can get straight to work. Now, what are the main drawbacks to having Teddiursa? Well, its speed stat is not really the greatest at base 40, but the way how I compensate for that is that I have a Choice Scarf on my Teddiursa. So let me go ahead and pop this up real quick. So there it is, mild nature, so I have a little bit more flexibility in terms of how I want to build this Teddiursa, because I could be able to have that special attack stat go up, and I don't even have to touch that attack stat. Alright. There are the EVs, and the IVs are more of a flex, but the HP can be 25 plus, defense can be 25 plus, special defense can be 25 plus, speed needs to be 31, so attack, special attack, and speed need to be 31. Now, as for the attacks here, let me go and show you this. This is Hyper Voice, Sweet Scent, Earthquake, and Strength. You want a PP Max Sweet Scent so you go to be on the field a little bit more. Alright, Cabbage, what is your feedback on Teddiursa?
I mean, I think for the most part you covered it. The only thing I would note is if you wanted to go the extra mile, you could teach it the egg move Yawn, which would give Teddiursa the ability to put other Pokemon to sleep, just in case you were to encounter a shiny or anything. But apart from that, I think you did a great job.
Thank you, man. Yeah, that's certainly a nice perk for Teddiursa, so there you go. Although, you might want to replace a few moves that I have here in the move slot, but otherwise, yeah, I mean, you could be able to mold Teddiursa however you want to mold it, and feel free to invest in this Teddy however you want to do it. Alright, Cabbage, are you ready for the next Pokemon?
Let's do it.
Alright, and the next Pokemon is going to be Dumbo! Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about Dumbo, shall we? Also known as Phanpy. Now you might be wondering, hey Roy, how come you call it Dumbo? And that's because it's blue and it's adorable. Donphan loses that pickup ability in favor of Sturdy, which I know some people at Mount Silver desperately don't like because they like to just Hyper Voice and get it over with. But Donphan says, no, I'm going to use Sturdy. So Phanpy still has its pickup ability and it's still adorable. So what is its main perk? That's a good question. Well, the attack stat is base 60, which is a little lower than Teddiursa. Not bad, but not something to write home about. Another perk for Phanpy is that it is ground type. So what that means is that you can lead with it, and you can have stab Earthquakes, which is certainly something that you can be able to consider, or you can have it pair with Rock Slide and all that. But yeah, Earthquake, Rock Slide, certainly nice. Now, you might be wondering, So what are the drawbacks of Phanpy? I mean, I love Dumbo. Well, unfortunately, Phanpy is a ground type, and there are a fair amount of things that can hit it super effectively. And also, even though, yes, it can learn Hyper Voice, I mean, that special attack is base 40. And it's not even stat. At least with Meowth, I mean, that Hyper Voice is stat. Meowth and Phanpy have the exact same special attack. The only difference is that you can't use Hyper Voice because it's not really going to do too much to several Pokemon. Cabbage, what do you have to say about Phanpy, also known as Dumbo?
Not a whole lot. The one thing I'll add is I actually ended up getting a Shiny Donphan while EV training over by Mount Silver, and I do plan on using Dumbo as my pickup Pokemon. So I'm going to be breeding down that Shiny Donphan in hopes to make a pretty cool pickup Pokemon myself.
Well, if you do that, make sure it's physical because its special attack is less than optimal.
Okay, I'll be sure to keep that in mind.
Excellent. Alright, and without further ado, let's go and dive into our next Pokemon, and we're just going to leapfrog past Zigzagoon because you don't want Zigzagoon, you want Linoone, which is the evolution. And that is rare because, considering the fact that pre-evolutions tend to have pickup, well, Linoone is a rarity. So, what are Linoone's main perks? And that's a good question. Its attack stat is base 70, and its special attack is base 50. Which is kind of nice considering the fact that you could be able to do like Teddiursa, you can do mild, you could be able to EV train attack and special attack, and its speed stat is actually not too bad, so you can be able to have things like a choice specs. So let's just say you have a Linoone as your Pokemon there that you like to EV train with, and you have it use Hyper Voice and Surf. Oh yeah, let's not forget the fact that Hyper Voice is normal type and Linoone is a normal type, so you get that extra stat bonus as well, which means that Hyper Voice can hit a little harder. It should also be noted that Linoone is in the Field Egg group, which means that it's pretty easy to breed for. That's certainly nice, but you might be wondering, hey Roy, how come you don't mention a physical move? I mean, that special attack stat of 50 is nice, but that attack stat is actually really hot. Roy, how come you don't use any sort of physical attack? And that's a good question. And that's where we get to our drawbacks. So, Linoone, having the attack stat of base 70, I mean, you don't really have a way to use that attack stat in terms of a spread move. Yes, you can have it learn strength, and if you don't have all the move Volcaronas, Linoone is certainly something that you can use in terms of an HM slave. So, Cabbage, do you have anything to note for Linoone?
No, I would just say it is kind of a bummer. I mean, I think it's really cool that you get to use that fully evolved Pokemon. I just wish Linoone learned something like Rock Slide or something so it could take advantage of that physical attack, but apart from that, nothing else to add.
Certainly. Yeah, and the speed stat is certainly nice. I know it's base 100, so you could probably try to make it work. Maybe you could try to have it hold choice specs and hope for the best, but you really want to have something like Teddiursa or Munchlax, in my opinion. But let's go and dive into the rest of the options. And I don't want to spoil too much of the video, but let's go ahead and dive into other options, because trust me, there are a lot more options than Linoone. And the option comes in the form of a squirrel. Pachirisu. Now you might be wondering, hey Roy, what are the main perks to having Pachirisu on top of having a really cute pickup Pokemon? Well, it can learn Discharge, and Discharge is Stab, so same type attack bonus. Just like how Teddiursa can learn Hyper Voice, and Linoone can learn Hyper Voice, while Pachirisu can learn Discharge. It should also be noted that Pachirisu is in the Field Egg group, which means that Pachirisu is pretty easy to breed for. And, you know, I think those are all the perks I can really note for Pachirisu. Alright, its speed stat is 95, which is nice, but let's go and talk about its drawbacks. Let's go and start off with its attack and special attack stat being at 45. Ugh, you really don't want to have it like an electric version of Meowth. I mean, yes, it doesn't evolve, and you don't have to worry about that, just like with Linoone and with Ambipom, but the problem with Pachirisu is that you're really hitting like a feather while going fast. YoungCabbage, anything to say about this?
Yeah, I would definitely just add that I agree with you. I think this is going to be more of a preference pick. Like, if you really like this Pokemon and you like how it looks, this is a great example of kind of customizing abilities in the game itself to fit your preferences. It's by no means the most efficient pickup Pokemon, but I definitely think if you're a fan, it's worth looking into.
Excellent. All right, and we're going to get into a bonus Pokemon that is a lot better than Pachirisu in terms of a PvE Pokemon, if you really are content with using the move Discharge. So keep that thought at the end of the video, because I plan to surprise you all. But in the meantime, let's go and dive into our next Pokemon, shall we? And it is the Pokemon with the highest attack and speed stat. What is it? Ambipom! What are the main perks to Ambipom? That's a good question. Ambipom has the attack stat of base 100. It has a special attack of base 60, and it has a speed stat of base 115. The highest attack and speed stat of this entire list, which is certainly something very nice. And with that being said, unfortunately, that is where all the perks are. I mean, yes, you can technically learn things like Body Slam and the Sword to be able to take advantage of that attack stat, but let's go and talk about its drawbacks. So first and foremost, you don't have a spread move, so you can't take it to EV Train. You can only take it for singular encounters only. Yes, that attack stat is really nice. Yes, that speed stat is really nice. But what's the point of having a really beautiful attack and speed stat if you can't utilize it with Rock Slide or Earthquake? Save Ambipom for PvP usage. Cabbage, do you have anything to say about that?
I 100% agree. It's a bummer it doesn't have a spread move, because as well, like, having the base attack stat of, 100 would be amazing. However, if you were to just do single encounters, might as well use a payday pickup Pokemon, would be my argument. So I agree that Ambipom should kind of stay in the lane of PvP.
I agree with that. And without further ado, Cabbage, are you ready for my second pickup Pokemon?
I'm ready.
Excellent. And I picked this pickup Pokemon straight from the Cabbage Patch. And what is it? It is Munchlax. So what are the main perks to Munchlax? That's a good question. Besides Meowth, it can also learn Payday. In fact, I'd even argue that Munchlax is much better at that job than Meowth is. Why? I mean, look at that attack stat. It is 85, which is really nice. I mean, slightly higher than Teddiursa's attack stat of base 80, so you get 5 extra attacks, which is saying a lot. So, Meowth, take notes. But also, I have another perk as well, and it comes in the form of that HP stat. So let's just say you need to weather some hits. Well, Munchlax can do that much better than Meowth can. So that is another perk that I would like to note there. Now, what are the drawbacks to using a Munchlax? And that's a good question. It does not have access to Sweet Scent, so you still need Teddiursa in the background somewhere. I mean, that's what I do. I carry Teddiursa and Munchlax and I alternate. And I'm going to show you my build with Munchlax a little later. But even though it does have access to Hyper Voice, I mean, you really want to have things like Teddiursa doing that, because Teddiursa's base special attack is 50, and I don't want to just specialize in its special attack. Yes, I can do that, but see, Payday has a very low base at 40, so I want to utilize that attack stat as much as I can. So I want to have an 85 attack, and I want to EV train it at the 252 maximum adamant nature. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and show you my build of Munchlax here. And there you go. I picked this Munchlax straight from the Cabbage Patch, as you can tell by the OT here. Alright, so adamant, there you go. Also, the IVs there, more of a flex, but you can just have plus 25 HP, plus 25 defense, plus 25 special defense, but attack and speed need to be 31. And there are the EVs, and there are the moveset right there. And speaking about the base stats, I'm going to go ahead and talk about a drawback. Look at its speed stat. It is a pathetic 5. It is the lowest speed stat of any of the listings here. However, to compensate for that, I decided to have a Choice Scarf with it. Just like Teddiursa, I have a Choice Scarf with that, and it works just fine. Cabbage, any feedback about that?
The only thing for Munchlax I would say is I think it's really cool how diverse Munchlax's moveset is. I think giving this monster that can hit for 85 base attack, Earthquake, and Rock Slide, it really gives you a lot of options. You can take down flying Pokemon, you can take down just about anything with that monster stat. But yeah, I definitely would recommend, the times that I have used Munchlax for this, I would definitely recommend using the Choice Scarf as well, just to get that speed up.
Certainly. Yeah, and I know that some people are probably going to say, but Roy, doesn't Munchlax have the move Covet? Can't I use the move Covet? Yes, but you might as well have a Bayonetta in the lead so you're not wasting time and you could just frisk stuff. So that is what I have to say about that. So, Cabbage, do you agree with that?
100%.
Excellent. I would like to mention one drawback that might be a little bit scary for people who want Munchlax as their pickup Pokemon. And that's going to be the fact that breeding a female Munchlax is going to be very hard, considering the fact that you want to breed it up as a Snorlax first, then kind of set up the IVs. Now, here's the thing. You don't want the female Munchlax to obtain the nature yet. You actually want to breed a companion breed that can have the nature. Why? Because you want the companion breed, particularly the male Pokemon that you're breeding with the female Snorlax, to hold that Everstone. Why? Because in order for Snorlax to have a baby that's a Munchlax, you need that female Snorlax to hold a full incense. So lock in the IVs you want on the female Munchlax, and then hold that full incense. So that way you can get the baby Munchlax. And then the male breeder Pokemon, make sure that the male breeder Pokemon has the nature you want, and make sure it's the monster egg group. So I just want to note that. And if you're not confident in your breeding abilities, then I'd heavily encourage you to either pay somebody to breed it for you, or just avoid using Munchlax until you are a lot more confident in your abilities to breed. Alright, and without further ado, let's go and dive into our very last pickup Pokemon. And I have been dreading this Pokemon because it is such an adorable Pokemon. I don't want to say anything bad about it, but I have to. And it's Lillipup. Cabbage, are you ready, man?
Unfortunately, yes.
So, Lillipup, its main perk is that it can learn Yawn via an egg move, but Teddiursa can also do that too. And Meowth can learn Hypnosis. Why even bother with Lillipup? And yes, it can learn Hyper Voice, but when you have a base special attack set of 25, do you really want to have Lillipup in your corner? Cabbage, do you have anything to say about this? Because I am just completely, like, I don't want to say anything more about it.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, and I feel like I have an emotional tie to this Pokemon because my very first playthrough as a kid, I actually caught and didn't evolve a Lillipup because it looks so similar to my family dog that talking bad about it just feels wrong. But unfortunately, yeah, it is going to kind of be the bottom of the barrel as far as this list goes.
Certainly. I mean, there is one extra perk. I'm going to add one extra perk because we're nice. It can learn Secret Power, so you can be able to make secret bases with it.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
All right. There we go. So, but in all seriousness, please consider other options. All right. There we go. But without further ado, let's go and talk about our bonus Pokemon. And what is it? It is Zapdos. Now you might be wondering, Roy, why on earth do you have Zapdos in the list? And that's a good question. That is because the PokeMMO developers have recently implemented a brand new mechanic, which is similar to Pickup, except you can be able to use electric type moves, and you can be able to get the Elemental Orbs, which can adjust the IVs of the legendary birds. Now, what are the main perks of Zapdos? Well, look at that special attack stat. You're going to knock out a lot of things with it. And Manentine, even with that special defense, is not going to survive Zapdos's discharge. I can tell you that right now. I mean, especially if you EV train it the right way. I mean, look at that. 125 special attack. That's the exact same special attack as Hydreigon. You're expecting something like a Manentine to survive that? I'm not expecting that at all. So you can be able to use Discharge, and for singular encounters, you can use Thunderbolt. Look at that. Zapdos is pretty nice in terms of your PvE Pokemon if you want to consider a Zapdos. But you can be able to have Modest, so you can have it 252 special attack, 252 speed. So you'll be able to farm those Elemental Orbs pretty easily. And here's the thing, you don't even have to catch a Zapdos yourself. You could be able to buy one off the global trade link, and you can just have it there, and then you can have it as your PvE Pokemon. You can use Discharge and Thunderbolt to your heart's content. So, Cabbage, anything to say about Zapdos?
Not necessarily. He's just a monster. Like, it all speaks for himself. The one thing I will say that I think is kind of cool, just as a big fan of cast for him, is that Zapdos also gets access to Weather Ball. Meaning, if it was hailing or something, you could take advantage of the weather, which could be unique for, you know, maybe a PvP build or even just for fun. But I think Zapdos' stats, again, speak for themselves here.
Certainly. Yeah, now I should note that the only drawback is that you have to use electric-type moves, so that means that you cannot EV train anywhere with ground types. So, you can't EV train at Kanto's Victory Road, goodbye Marowak and Sandslash. You can't EV train HP over in the Cliff Edge Gate, goodbye Quagsire. And you cannot EV train anywhere with any ground types. So that is a drawback to Zapdos, because in order to activate the Coalescence ability, you need to have Zapdos in your lead. Just like how you have your pickup Pokemon in the lead as well. So, Cabbage, do you have any feedback about that?
No, I definitely think that's an important thing to keep in mind, though, before you go out to farm those orbs.
Certainly. Alright, and those orbs are actually going for quite a bit of money, so you can be able to make a good amount of money getting those orbs, and you can be able to adjust the IVs of Articuno, Moltres, Zapdos, so feel free to use that to your heart's content. I would also like to mention, for completionist's sake, that Coalescence can also activate if you have Articuno or Moltres in the lead as well. However, we did not mention it in the video because, well, Articuno has the move Blizzard, which is not always accurate unless it is snowing outside in the battle, or Mind Reader, which Articuno does actually have access to at level 22. However, the problem is that Mind Reader you need to activate on every single Pokemon in the Horde, which means that it makes the move inefficient, especially if you want to EV train everything. Or Moltres with the move Heat Wave, which, to our knowledge, we don't have any way to really make it a 100% move unless Moltres has a move that it can learn, like Mind Reader or Lock On, which, to our knowledge, Moltres cannot learn those two moves. And even if Moltres did have access to the move Mind Reader or Lock On, it's still pretty inefficient, considering the fact that, like Articuno, you need to use that move on every single Pokemon in the Horde, which makes the move inefficient. Which is why we decided to eliminate Articuno and Moltres from being mentioned in this particular section of the video. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and sign off for now. Cabbage, thank you so much for being a part of the Roy Rogers News Channel.
Hey, the pleasure is all mine. I am happy to help out anytime.
Excellent. Alright, and we're going to go ahead and sign off. This is Roy Rogers News Channel. Don't forget to comment and subscribe to the channel, like the content that you see here. And this is Roy Rogers News Channel signing off. Fast, accurate, unbiased, Roy Rogers News.